And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen?
He said, why? Why are you angry? What's wrong? And God told him what he should do. He said, you are angry because you haven't done right. The way you went about your offering is not accepted. It's not every offering that is accepted to God. Just because you gave an offering don't mean God accepts it. God has standards. He has requirements and demands, and he has protocol. It's not every offering you bring that is acceptable to God. I'm telling you. So God said, you brought an offering, but the way you went about it, and the offering itself does not please me. I have no respect for your offering because you yourself don't respect it. It means nothing to you, so it means nothing to me. Go ahead.
If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him.
Look at this guy Cain. Abel gave a more excellent offering by faith. Say by faith. And if he gave by faith, then he had something, because faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So he gave by hearing from God what God wanted and what God requires and expects of him. Listen, whatever we have is his. And every now and then he will require specific amounts. He will require specific things from you and I, of which is in our power to do. And he said, I've given you all things. The cattle on 1,000 hills is mine. The silver and the gold are mine. This is what I require of you at this particular time. I want a lamb. He heard and he acted in faith. Cain just did whatever he pleased and wanted to do. There are people who serve God on their own terms. They serve God the way you can't serve God with the way you feel. You don't serve God with how you feel and what you think. God has requirement. And hear me, God says what he means and he means what he says. God is not pleading with you and he's not making suggestions. He commands. He's a king. He commands. So watch this. Here was Cain, angry with his brother and even with God, because his brother pleased God, had acceptance with God he didn't have. And God said, Cain, if you do right, you have acceptance like your brother Abel. This guy was not willing to sacrifice a lamb, but he was willing to sacrifice his brother. Jealousy is the spirit of murder, and selfishness is the mother of jealousy. And jealousy does not stop until it spills blood. If you don't know what I'm telling you, it can get you. I'm telling you. I have to guide my height all the time. I was telling them in the first service that when I moved here 30 years ago from ShopRite to Sakumono Junction, there was not one church. Today, on the Springtech Road, across this place here, we have over 400 churches, charismatic churches. And every one of them, if you go there, you will see a member from Action there. Then East Legon, we have over 200 churches at East Legon. When I came here, there was nothing nowhere, nothing. And from this church alone, we have over 4 churches on the Springtech Road, and we have over 48 branches in Accra alone, and they all came from this branch here. Can you imagine if everybody was here, how many services I'll be having on Sunday morning? But who cares? Who cares? I'm not going to worry myself about that. Let them all save souls. If the motive for which they are doing it is wrong, God will judge. It's between them and God. I am not the judge. The Bible says, let no man judge anyone until the coming of the Lord. For when he comes, every man's work shall come to the light. Then shall every man receive praises of the Lord. So I'm not going to try and sit in judgment over anybody. I don't care what their motive is, whether they are doing ministry for money or for fame. It's none of my business. Let them do what they are doing. I'm also doing what God calls me to do. It's just a matter of time. When the master comes, who will know? Come on, put your hands together. So look at Cain. He was not willing to do right by God. He wasn't willing to sacrifice a lamb, but he didn't care to slay his brother. He didn't care to shed the blood of his brother. He didn't care. And that is what jealousy does. It pushes you to the point where you spill blood before it is satisfied, because jealousy is never satisfied, and it's a spirit. It's a spirit that drives you and justifies why you should feel the way you are feeling. Cain had no business being angry with Abel. No business being angry. That's what jealousy does. You are angry with someone, a loved one, not because of anything they've done. You have no justification, but the enemy convinces you that you are right about the way you feel, and that the only way you can justify the way you feel is to spill blood. And let me tell you something here. I realize, ladies and gentlemen, that most time jealousy will kill your divine helpers and will kill your deliverer. So at the day of need and at the day of trouble, when you need a divine helper and you need a deliverer, you have yourself been used by the devil to kill your deliverer. Let me explain it to you. You remember David? David was a mighty warrior. He slew a lion and a bear with nothing in his hands. Nothing in his hands. He handled a bear and a lion. He slew them and delivered the lamb out of their hands. David found himself at the backside of the desert. It was believed in those days that David was born out of wedlock. And the dad was embarrassed and ashamed of adding him to his kids when the prophet came to the house. And he felt like David wasn't qualified. You know, God does not call the qualified. He calls the unqualified and he qualifies you. Are you hearing me? Because if God calls the qualified, I won't be standing here preaching to you. Are you hearing me, somebody? It is not him that willeth, nor him that wants, but God that showeth mercy. Somebody put your hands together. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. It's not about who is qualified. It's not about being smart or who is anointed than who. That is not it. It is God that showeth mercy. That's all that it is. See, I hear you. So David